Sonic, the heart of your system.
I'm the awarded kit guru. SilverStone Precision PS15 is a micro ATX case that is incredibly cheap. Here in the UK, £39.98. Why it's not $39.99, I have no idea. We have a tempered glass tinted main window, 4 thumb screws, and that comes away. To reveal the interior, where I have already installed a motherboard and power supply, as you will see. The back panel is plain steel. 2 thumb screws. That comes away. Very little in the way of space for cables. You have a single drive caddy down there, which is a 3.5, 2.5 design, like so. And you can put a couple of SSDs or 2.5-inch hard drives, should you wish, on the back panel there. You've got filtration on the top, front panel pops loose, retained by cables, cables feed out. That cable there, Molex power, illuminates this panel here. As you can see, very meshy. We've got USB 3s, audio, activity light, and a power button there. And here we have a box, quite frankly. There's that small drive caddy. You can see I've already installed this Seasonic Focus Plus 1000 watt power supply, and here we have an ASRock Micro ATX X299M motherboard. That is the Extreme 4 version. On the face of it, you can install a proper processor with a proper power supply, and you clearly have options for installing proper graphics. So despite the fact it's Micro ATX, loads of options. Graphics cards. This RTX 2080 will fit in this case with space to spare because it supports a graphics card up to 314mm in length. However, and it's a big however, that is with no hardware in the front, no fans, no all-in-one, no nothing. So I take my RTX 2080, I put it in, I slide it into place, and bingo, there we go. And I've got about 40mm of clearance at the front. The snag is if you want to put an all-in-one in there, the all-in-one takes about 55 or so millimeters, and there just is not the space. Micro ATX typically support dual graphics cards. If I put this in the lower graphics slot there, and I'm not going to recommend this to anybody, you will see it is right above the power supply, which would obviously be very bad news because the cooling system for the graphics card and for the power supply are fighting each other, and we don't want that. So the lower slot, no, that's no good to you. The upper slot, absolutely fine, but you're going to be sorely restricting any cooling you can put in the front of the case. This setup works. Corsair H60, 120mm cooler in the upper half of the case, doesn't conflict with the graphics card, job done, proper processor, reasonable cooler, and I know a great many Kit Guru readers say 120 coolers on a CPU is not enough, you need 240 at least. Kind of is the short answer. That cooler will work on that CPU, but a 240 would be a better choice. So this setup works, and obviously you can put a fan down the bottom. The frustrating thing here is, it is crystal clear that if we had but a few millimeters of extra space, you could put a 240 in the front of this system. There we go, PC finished, and very neat and tidy it is too. The processor is an Intel Core i7-7820X, that's 8 cores and 16 threads, runs at 3.5 GHz on all cores, and it's on that ASRock X299M Extreme 4 motherboard. The key to this build is my use of this cooler here, Noctua NHD9L, which is a 92mm fan rather than the regular 120, and the reason is that this Arctic Freezer 33TR, which is the 120 fan, is actually slightly too tall for this case. It stands about, would you believe, 2 or 3mm proud of the frame of the case. You can't put the glass on. Obviously you want a bit of clearance anyway, so it is too tall. The 120 cooler, very unlikely to fit. As you can see, I have an RTX 2080 graphics card in there, Founders Edition. There is plenty of space in front of the card. If I wanted, I could very easily put some fans in the front of the case, no trouble whatsoever. I do not, in truth, think this is the obvious way of building into this case. I mean, this is a high-end PC and it's a really budget case. It works perfectly well. Nonetheless, my first go at building in this case actually used a Ryzen 5 2400G Raven Ridge APU with a 240mm fractal design Celsius S24 liquid cooler and therefore no graphics card. It meant quite a lot of space in the case. It worked perfectly well, but obviously as a stress test for the case it was useless. A very sensible PC, but as a test of this case, no test whatsoever. So with this rather high-end hardware, the case actually performs perfectly well. Under extreme load, temperature of the CPU is 83 degrees. Correct for the delta over ambient means 60 degrees. Take off the glass and the temperature drops by 15 degrees. The glass certainly restricts the breathing of this case, but that's no surprise. That's a lot of hardware. The graphics card pretty much cuts it in half. The cooler is relatively small. The front certainly breathes well, the top breathes well. Nonetheless, you slap glass on the side and you don't have any front fans, it's going to struggle somewhat with this level of hardware. On the other hand, that APU, it operated at something like 49 degrees. That's absolute. And it was a cooler time of day, but you're talking 30 degrees over ambient. But then obviously in terms of load, minimal load. The hardware works well, it fits, there's space. I would recommend you put fans in the front because why not, but I want to test the case as provided, which means the stock rear fan only. Our Focus Plus 1000 gold power supply fits very neatly. Around the back we are tight for space when it comes to cables, but it does go. A few more millimeters would make so much difference. Happily there are a decent number of cable anchor points, which means I'm able to secure the cables, keep them all neat and tidy, put the panel on without too much difficulty. I have installed a single 3.5-inch hard drive and 3 2.5-inch SSDs, as well as the Intel 760p M.2 SSD. So there is actually a lot of storage in this case, despite its tiny size. What don't I like about it? It's slightly too small. If it was slightly longer, slightly wider, so I could put a slightly taller CPU cooler in, it would make a world of difference. 5mm in that dimension and 5 in this dimension would make a significant difference. If it was 10 to 15 longer, that would make a lot more difference. The height is not bad, there's space above the motherboard but not enough space for a liquid cooler, but that's not really a factor anyway, but you could put fans in the roof without any difficulty. The build quality is absolutely fine, it breathes. If you stick mental levels of hardware in, it struggles, but it does a decent job. If you put more modest hardware in, that's absolutely perfectly okay. Pricing, who can argue? RGB, there's none, apart from that blue light on the front and the blue light on the I/O panel. You either are happy with that or you think, I want RGB. There's just a massive divide. I mean, obviously don't expect it for 40 quid, clearly not. But the point is you might not want it, in which case you might object, you might resent paying for RGB you're never going to use. And, you know, I feel your pain, I do, honestly. So, minimal RGB, little bit of light, almost blacked out, dead basic case. You're paying for no thrills and you're getting a perfectly sound little product. Personally, I'd like to see a slightly larger version, whether it does ATX or not particularly stressed, but just a little bit larger would make a world of difference to me. As it is, for less than £40, you simply cannot grumble. PS15, well done SilverStone, good work. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Hit the bell button, subscribe, return, watch more videos from Kit Guru. I'm Leo Woodard for Kit Guru. This is SilverStone Precision PS15.